Okay, so just to reiterate what I was talking about before the last video ended, just in case I got cut off, um, was when you have a glass facade, obviously you can't pick a glass. Now you can pick the mullions, but obviously you don't want to waste time actually selecting each individual mullion, a surface on the mullion to do a solar analysis for. And you can't select the glass because the solar analysis won't read it. What you can do is you can run an analysis for the wall, and you can assume, since you can see it's red straight across, and it starts to get orange with the yellow, and obviously looking at your legend, you can pretty much assume, that the red's continuing all the way across, and then orange will go all the way across up here to the yellow. And then you see here my curtain wall doesn't go all the way up, so that's why I'm getting the reading up there, because that's still wall. And then obviously I have an overhang, so that's why some of it's blue, because it's protected by the sun. So you can start to assume that that's going to continue over. So right here you're getting 77 BTUs per foot squared, average hour solar radiation on that wall. So you can assume the same is going to happen on the glass. And then obviously since it's glass, that's going to pass through and shine on the floor or whatever surface you're going to have going on. If it's a desk or something like that, and then that's how much solar radiation will be on that floor, or at that point, and heat up that surface. And then, as I mentioned, you can change the type of glass so it's not as transparent to help block some of the sun. Triple glazing, with some Aragon glass could help insulate it to actually mitigate how much heat would transfer through, because obviously it's going to act just like a wall where the surface is going to be heated. So with glass, there's going to be like two types of radiation, where it's going to be the same as a wall where the surface is heated, and then a certain amount is going to pass through. So that's going to happen with glass, where the exterior surface of the glass is going to be heated by the sun, and then a certain amount will pass through and heat the space. And then obviously you can start to do stuff like triple glaze it, Aragon gas within, the triple glazing. So you'll have 3 pieces of glass, and then between each piece of glass would be Aragon gas to help insulate it, so less radiation would pass through. And then the second type for glass is obviously dependent on how translucent the glass is. Sun will actually pass through and heat the space, and then there's certain things that you can start to do where you can put a low E coating on the glass to help tint it and kind of reflect some of the solar radiation so it can't pass through. So there's many different things that you can do to help kind of, if you have a glass wall on a hot surface, you can start to do, and then obviously shading devices and all stuff like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pause the video, and I'm going to kind of build up, quickly my model. So I'm going to start to add some walls on the interior. Probably add a second floor and just add some certain stuff. So I can start to analyze that for you guys, and just to show you what you can start to do with your buildings from an analysis standpoint when you're going to do for it floor by floor. Okay, so I just kind of quickly threw together a kind of like just some quick floor elements, with different walls. So you can see here, this is the first floor, where I kind of have like a corridor, and then a little open area. Maybe in your guys' circumstance, maybe this is kind of like a cafe area, and then just kind of different rooms. Back here, maybe that would end up being the lobby to, or maybe this is the cafe and this is the lobby to the inn that's above. Since the space is a little bit bigger. But notice I don't have any windows or anything in these spaces just yet, and these are just solid walls with no doors or anything like that. So I just want to run the analysis to show you that what happens there. And then if I go up to the second floor, so the second floor, These are kind of like 3-foot half walls with like a walkway, and then rooms that you go over into there where and then so on this walkway you can look down to the space below, so you can see that a little bit better. If I hide this, you start to see how that is actually set up, and I did that just to kind of just show different things when I run the analysis. So I'm going to reset that. So the first thing I'm going to run is I'm going to do one for the first floor. So I'm going to do a solar analysis. I'm going to select my floor. So I'm going to select the first floor, finish, and I'm going to analyze. And it's going to give me an analysis. And I'm going to close this out so it makes it permanent, and I can take a section box and do a 3D section. And I'm going to bring it down past the second floor, so I can see my first floor. So you can start to see what's going on. So now, this wall is blocking sun from kind of getting further in to this space. Since I have a second floor, obviously this window can only go so much in before the second, this window height starts to go into the second floor. That's above. Then so you have stuff there. Obviously, I don't have any windows, here on the other faces. So if I did, you would start to see, you'd start to see what's going on there. And then you could also, you can see here that this region starts to get cut off a little bit. So if you wanted to, you could also kind of, you could see that this would probably fall on this wall a little bit. So you could even, do an analysis on that interior wall if you wanted to. Now that might be getting a little too much, running an analysis for that wall, because if you run one for the floor, you kind of know that, the rest of this is probably, there's probably something hidden on that wall. But you can run it, just if you wanted to, just to kind of test it. So that's kind of what it's doing for the first floor. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add like a little curtain wall to this interior wall, and to see what it does. Before I do that, I just want to touch on this. So this is something that you can do to help cool spaces, within your building itself, where some of you actually put a double exterior wall, but you could do a double kind of wall on the interior where this is your corridor, this is kind of like a corridor or whatever. And then you have like another wall that kind of frames out your spaces. So now this wall kind of helps protect, this space, and kind of helps block some of the sun, if that's what you want. So that's kind of things you can start to play with too when you're laying out the actual interior, layouts of your building. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a quick curtain wall to this spot on the first floor. I don't want to save. So now I have that quick curtain wall, and I'm going to turn off my section. And so you can notice that it's not much was going through from this analysis. And I'm gonna pick on this and attach it to the floor, so it's just on that floor. So you can see what I was talking about, where how some of this was blocked when you were looking at it. It wasn't as wide as it was when I ran it with this building empty, and that's obviously because this floor is there now, so only so much light can pass through this height for the glass, and then the rest of it would be on the second floor. So I'm gonna just kind of switch views for a second to hopefully reset this one so the analysis runs correctly. Reselect my floor. Select that floor. Finish. Analyze. And then close out of this so it's permanent. Come back down to the section box and cut low enough so I hide the second floor. So now you can start to see, since I put a I put like a little curtain wall on the interior wall itself. Now there's more, instead of being blocked right at that wall, more sunlight is getting through and starts to infiltrate into this space and start to heat that floor surface as well. This starts to give you an idea of how the analysis should start to look, so you can double check that you're getting the right results when you're doing it for floors. I have, this is an interior space that's surrounded by solid walls, so obviously it's not getting any direct sunlight, so none of the surface on the floor should have a reading. So you can start to look at stuff like that. Obviously, before it ended right there, I added glass to this wall, and now more gets to filter through. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to a top view. I can move this legend over, and then you can hide this section. If you uncheck section box, obviously it'll reset the view. But what you can do is you can go to edit, annotate, and if you scroll down, you can uncheck section boxes, and it'll hide that section box, but keep the section cut active. So you can do that when you're starting to kind of set up your view. So what I can do now is I can I showed this earlier where I just renamed it and then hit a new default one. What you can also do is you can just hit duplicate with detailing, and it'll create a copy, and you can just rename it. But it doesn't take the solar analysis. Okay, so you're gonna have to do it the way that I showed in it's either the first or second video, where you have to rename this. So say I want to say that this is verse 4 solar. And now I can create this. So this gives me a new view, which I'm going to run a solar analysis on the second floor 4. So I'll switch this to average hour, BTUs. Make sure my sun's set up. 1 year solar study. So these are the same. So this 1 year solar study, as long as if you set it up here, it's going to be the same. So if I changed it here, it would change in the other view as well, back in the first floor solar one. So if you wanted to do two separate, you would have to either you'd have to do a duplicate. So you'd have to do like this, and you'd have to hit duplicate it. And this goes the same for render settings. So if you ever notice, if you did summer solar study for one view, you're going to have the same settings if you did a summer solar for another view. So if you ever wanted to do two, you'd have to duplicate them and then set them up for each view independently. I'm going to do a 1 year solar study, and I'm going to select user selection, and I'm going to tab. And so this is where it gets tricky, where I can zoom in, tab until I get my second floor. I want them selected, and now I can run. So with my second floor selected, I can run the analysis for it. And I'm going to exit out. So it's permanent. Move this over so it's visible. And now I'm going to take a section box here. And this one I don't have to go far down. Just far enough where I start to cut the roof. So now I can get to start to see for that floor. So obviously this was open 2-story, so that's why there's no second floor there. And now I just have a second floor here. And then again, if I added a window here, maybe there'd be some sun infiltration through. Probably not, maybe a little bit, but probably not much. Since there's this kind of half wall is probably blocking it, some to come in. So you could do a reading maybe on that wall to see if there's any solar radiation on it. But it sees here that there's not much, so I could potentially make this a full glass wall, obviously depending on what the space is back there, and there'd be no issue because this is all cool. And then you can see from the second floor up what's going on there. And that's pretty much it.